Our boy Mika, oh wow, we have a lot to talk about him. It's kind of like he's a character that have a lot of potential, but Hoyoverse didn't really give him the perfect chance to do so, and that will be something we discuss quickly in the first part of the video. However, if you're someone who have already finished building your Mika, love playing him, now is actually the time to think about which is the perfect team to slot him in. And that's something we always have on our channel, focusing on team build for different character. And so with that guys, let's just dive into today's video. So first off, let's discuss about the most important point when it comes to using Mika, is that my complete honest opinion on him is going to be that he's isn't too good of a unit but can still be functional, in that his main role is to buff physical damage, and I guess that's the best thing about him at this point. Other than that, his kits also includes like healing, attack speed increase, a cryo character, which I would say it doesn't really help the team too much. Now the healing, since at C0 he's only doing healing like once per 2.5-ish seconds, you will still have to rely on iframing or dodging in order to not be killed if he's the only healer on your team. Attack speed can go up all the way to 21% if you do try to invest in him, though it does sound nice. The difference it makes isn't too much of a significance if he's the sole attack speed increaser of the team, and even when he's a cryo character, his cryo application for the team is almost none. And we can just go as far as saying that he can be a character that has the least elemental application in the whole of Genshin Impact right now, so Mika cryo application isn't something that you can rely on. Now the best part about him is of course his physical damage increase. However, it's really dependent on how many enemies you're fighting. If you're up against solo bosses at C0, Mika will only be able to provide you one stack of Rhyme Star Shards, and how you trigger it is that you must have his second passive talent activate both of his skill and burst, and requires your on-field character to do a critical hit in order for you to get the first stacks, because this stacks is really dependent on how many enemies you fight with his E skill. Therefore, in order to pull out Mika's best potential, you must be in a group fight. If you want to get him to be better, you will at least need his C2, where basically even when you are soloing battling, you will get 2 stack, and then if you can max him out at C6, you will be able to see a huge difference then. But C6ing a character like this isn't something that just anyone can do, so at the very least we can wait until you get a C2 and play around with his C0 for the time being, as he can still be functional while in a group situation at C0 for your physical team. So those I would say guys is kind of like the most important note you want to keep in mind when you're using a C0 Mika. Once again, Hoyoverse is kind of like pushing us to get a C6 4-star character, even though Mika is the very first character to be a niche support for physical team, but due to the fact that physical team is still kind of like a lackluster at this point, we're not seeing the best ability we can with Mika. So I really do hope that Hoyoverse is giving us a lot more good physical DPS character coming in the future. And so after that discussion guys, now let's talk about some of the best team that we can use for Mika. And then first team is going to be our usual Eula team alongside with Mika, in which we features Eula, Raiden Shogun, Mika, and Zhongli. So usually I have Raiden Shogun on Eula's team because, you know, Raiden Shogun is just a really good electro applicator for your team. Not to mention she can buff a lot of burst damage for your Eula and also your other members of the team. And Raiden also helps you with energy restoration, so Eula and Mika is a character that demands a lot of burst uptime, and Raiden being here on the team will definitely be able to take the weight out of that. And what Raiden can also do is whenever you're having Eula off field time for waiting her burst to come back, Raiden can then be on the field and take the lead with her burst damage, so that can also a pretty decent rotation for your team. Mika of course is going to be the physical attack increase for Eula. Generally we will recommend Mika to be holding a Favonius Lance so that he can help triggering a lot of particles for the team. Then we have Zhongli. Not only is he good with the shield and also a lot of attack boosting and resistance shred for you as well, but most importantly his shield is going to be keeping you alive, since we know that Mika healing isn't something that you can rely on all the time, and if you're up against enemies that do a lot of damage or a lot of bloom reactions and you're taking a lot of damage, you'll be seeing your Eula HP goes down significantly very fast. So Zhongli is going to be here to help us avoid that many of the time. So this team rotation would be pretty simple, guys. You first start off with Raiden's E to Zhongli's EQ to Mika's EQ, and then moving on to Eula's EQ so that she can annihilate everything on the field. Second team, we have an interesting mono cryo team composition featuring Eula, Mika, Rosaria, and Shanhe. If you did manage to get both Shanhe and Mika this banner around, it would be a fun team for you to try out. Though this team does need a bit of investment, since we're not having any electro character here on the team to help with defense resistance shreds. You would like to have a Rosaria C6 here to help you with defense resistance shred. Alongside with Shanhe, we do also have resistance shred coming from her, so that should be a good thing. This team is going to be kind of like a mixture between you doing physical damage alongside with a lot of other cryo damage, because it is first of all a mono cryo team, and we also have Shanhe here to buff a lot of your cryo damage. So not just Eula is going to be able to benefit off a bit more from her cryo damage, but also Rosaria is a character that you want to invest in as if she is a DPS character, and also you will get crit ratio increase coming from Rosaria, so that should be beneficial for the team as well. Team rotation here is pretty simple as well. You first start off with Rosaria's EQ to Shanhe's EQ to Mika's EQ, and then to Eula's EQ being on field. Third team, we have Keqing, Mika, Rosaria, and Yunjin. This team is going to be focusing on a Keqing physical build, or if you don't want Keqing, we can also fit in Fischl and Razor physical build, and they will do absolutely fantastic on this team, since these three characters in terms of physical build work similar to each other, with both Mika and Rosaria here for a cryo resonance. Plus, more importantly, we would want to have a cryo character to support Mika with energy regen and also cryo application, because Rosaria is one of the best character in the game in terms of cryo application, and because you know that Mika isn't someone you can rely on with cryo. We have Yunjin here, who is the best character in terms of buffing normal attack, so that would definitely be able to benefit really well with Keqing, Fischl, or Razor depending on which character you're using. Not to mention Yunjin do have a bit of shielding. If you time her counter E-shield attack properly, we should be able to utilize her shield just as how Beidou does it. Very simple physical team to run, but very effective as well. So just to make sure that you're iframing and dodging correctly so that your main DPS don't die due to a lacking on healing from Mika's part. Rotation is going to be simple. You first start off with Rosaria's EQ to Mika's EQ to Yunjin's EQ, and then to Keqing's EQ. Fourth team, we're going to be featuring a Zhongli physical build, which is alongside with Mika, Fischl, and Rosaria. Now, I'm not sure how many of us are going to be using a Zhongli physical build. I guess that this is going to be mainly for Zhongli's fan, but either way, Zhongli doing physical attack have always been quite viable, so it should be pretty good. We have Rosaria and Mika here once again to make sure you're covered with both energy recharge and cryo application for the team. Fischl here is going to be helping you doing a lot of off-field damage alongside with electro application, or if you want, you can also fit in Raiden Shogun and she will still do absolutely fantastically. How the team rotation is going to go is that you first start off with Zhongli's E to Fischl's E to Rosaria's EQ to Mika's EQ, and then on to Zhongli being on field. Fifth team, I would say we have a pretty fun team here, which is going to be an attack speed increase team, which features Jin, Mika, Yunjin, and Rosaria. Now this team, once again, you do need to have a bit of investment onto your character, because we do require a Jin C2 and then a Yunjin C6. A bit tough for many of us out there, I know, but if you do, I'd say that this team is pretty fun to play, because we're going to be seeing quite a fast attack speed increase for Jin, which is pretty fun to look at. Now I'm currently having Rosaria here, even though she doesn't really help us in terms of attack speed. I kind of want to have her here so that she can make up for the energy recharge for Mika and cryo application, alongside with if you have a C6 Rosaria, she does help you with defense shred. But what this team kind of lacks is that it's going to be currently lacking an electro character so that you can kind of replace Fischl into Rosaria's place, but due to the fact that Mika's just so bad with cryo element, it's going to be quite hard for you to actually keep up the super conduct even if you have an electro character on the team. So you can have an electro character, but for me, I just personally prefer having Rosaria here to have a bit more consistent team run. How the team rotation works is that you first start off with Rosaria's EQ, to Yunjin's EQ, to Mika's EQ, and then to Yin's EQ. So overall, I would say right now, guys, Mika team is pretty limited. We don't really have too much of a team that can see a huge difference. Generally, the biggest factor has always been us relying on having a C6 Mika so that we can see a huge difference in team's performance. But either way, even if we only have a C0 Mika right now, he can still be functional in the team I have discussed here. I know that there can be some other team that you guys may be running, so if you do have any different team, feel free to leave it down in the comment section and I would be really interested to see what it is. I really hope that Hoyoverse is going to be looking more into our physical character down the road, because physical character have been kind of forgotten for quite some time. So guys, that should be everything I have to say in terms of Mika teams for the time being. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you're new here, guys, be sure to subscribe to the channel to not miss out on my future Genshin Impact videos. I really appreciate you guys sticking with me till this part of the video, and with that, I wish you a super day and I will catch you on my next video.